Times of Enoch. For is it possible that our most ancient stories are not mere myths, but fragmented memories of a forgotten technological past? The Guardian Alliance knows such as truth, preserving a hidden history on ancient artifacts known as the CDT plates. This knowledge speaks of a time when humanity lived alongside advanced extraterrestrial races, sharing wisdom and technology that defies our modern understanding of the ancient world. This secret history reveals that major cataclysms like the biblical flood were not random acts of nature. Instead, they were planned events in a cosmic struggle that stretches back thousands of years, shaping the very course of human civilization and our genetic makeup. This incredible story begins around 9558 BC, with a man, a simple scribe named Enoch. He was not just a prophet, he was a descendant of a powerful Jehovian bloodline, which gave him access to advanced knowledge. Enoch uncovered a terrible plot by a Luciferian group who planned to destroy the last remaining islands of Atlantis by triggering a great flood. He learned that they intended to use powerful crystal technologies to shift the tectonic plates, sinking the land masses and wiping out entire populations. Armed with this terrifying information, Enoch knew he had to act quickly to save his people from the coming disaster. Could this be the true origin of the flood myths found in cultures all around the world? The islands of Atlantis were home to three distinct and remarkable peoples. First, there were the Nahasa, a hybrid race of Jehovian Anunnaki Melchizedeks, who were Enoch's own people. They were known for their advanced spiritual and scientific knowledge. Living alongside them were the Lohas people, who would later become the ancestors of the Celts and Druids, possessing a deep connection to the natural world. Finally, there were the Brua, a group of angelic humans who would eventually carry their legacy to the Americas, becoming the forefathers of the Mayan civilization. These three groups represented a unique blend of human and starseed genetics, a living library of cosmic heritage. When Enoch delivered his warning, the Nahasa people listened. They understood the gravity of the threat and trusted their leaders' otherworldly insight. They prepared for a mass exodus, not on wooden arks, but through hidden passageways leading to a safe haven deep within the planet, a place often referred to as the Inner Earth. As the Great Flood of 9558 BC washed over Atlantis, devastating the islands and scattering the Lohas and Brua survivors across the globe, the Nahasa were safely shielded from the destruction. Their escape was not a miracle. It was a carefully executed plan based on advanced intelligence. It was in fact an extraterrestrial intervention. After the cataclysm that destroyed Atlantis, the world was forever changed. The Nahasa people, who had taken refuge in the Inner Earth, could not remain hidden forever. Their destiny was to re-emerge and help rebuild civilization on the surface. This monumental task was not undertaken alone. It was carefully orchestrated by a cosmic council of benevolent overseers, including advanced beings from Sirius B, the Elohim, and the Ra Confederation. These groups, often described in ancient texts as gods, were in fact highly evolved extraterrestrial guardians. They chose a specific location for the Nahasa's new home, the Sumerian city of Ur, a place that would become a cradle of civilization. The city of Ur was assigned to what was known as Tribe 10, an authentic Hebrew race. This was not the same group described in later biblical narratives, but a unique blend of Christos starseed races, including Melchizedek, Hebiru, and Hebrew lineages. Their genetic makeup was special, as their DNA was directly keyed to the vibrational frequencies of Stargate number 10, located in the Vega star system within the Lyra constellation. This connection made them guardians of a critical interstellar portal, a role that placed them at the center of a cosmic conflict. Their very existence was tied to the flow of energy and knowledge between worlds. However, peace in Ur was short-lived. Beginning around 8900 BC, the city became a target for various Anunnaki factions. The Samjasi Lightbearers from the Pleiades and the Thoth Enki serpent groups. Yet the malevolent Marduk hybrids too had their eyes on such city, of which these hybrids had previously sworn allegiance to the sinister Luciferian covenant back in 10,500 BC in Lohas, Atlantis. They saw the Stargate connecting the people of Ur as an immediate threat to their agenda of control and domination. So they launched a series of invasions, seeking to corrupt the bloodlines and seize control of the city and its powerful Stargate portal, turning a beacon of hope into a battlefield. The conflict escalated dramatically in 8400 BC, when forces loyal to the Anunnaki leader Marduk finally conquered Ur. These invaders were allied with an evil race from the Andromeda galaxy known as the Necrometan Andromi, often described as beetle people due to their appearance. The fall of Ur was a catastrophic event that caused the other Anunnaki factions to scatter across the ancient world. This diaspora of powerful, technologically advanced beings set the stage for new conflicts and the establishment of new empires. The survivors fled, carrying their knowledge, their technology, and their ongoing feuds with them to new lands, most notably to ancient Egypt. With the fall of Ur, the Thoth Enki groups were forced to find a new territory to claim as their own. They set their sights on the fertile lands of Egypt, which was already home to a peaceful and spiritually advanced civilization. The original inhabitants were the Saracen Egyptians, a Magi Grail King line directly descended from angelic humans. These people were the true guardians of ancient Egyptian wisdom, living in harmony and preserving profound spiritual teachings. However, their peaceful existence was shattered when Thoth, a brilliant but ambitious Anunnaki leader, brought with him the conflicts and technologies from the wars in ancient Sumer. This invasion marked a significant turning point in Egyptian history as different Anunnaki factions began to merge and form new alliances. The Thoth Enki groups, who had initiated the invasion, soon found themselves mixing with the Samjazi light-bearing bloodlines, which included the famous figures of Osiris, Isis, and their son Horus. This blending of rival yet aligned Anunnaki bloodlines created a new ruling class. They were not the original Magi Grail Kings. They were a hybrid dynasty, born from conflict and a desire for power, forever altering the spiritual and political landscape of ancient Egypt. This new ruling elite, formed around 8400 BC, became known as the Scarab Kings. This name and its associated symbolism were no accident. It was a direct result of their alliance with Marduk's forces, who were connected to the Necromaton beetle people from Andromeda. The scarab beetle, which would become one of Egypt's most sacred symbols, was introduced as a marker of this new leadership. It represented their off-world heritage and their allegiance to a cosmic power structure that was alien to the original spiritual traditions of Egypt. The beetle became a brand, a symbol of a new order imposed by extraterrestrial invaders. As a result, the official history of the Egyptian dynasties as we know it was founded not by the original Magi Grail King lines, but by these invading Anunnaki races. They rewrote history, co-opted the native religion, and presented themselves as divine gods to the local population. They built monuments not just to honor themselves, but to harness the planetary energies for their own technological and political purposes. This hidden truth remained buried for millennia, until the Guardian Alliance orchestrated the birth of a new pharaoh, Akhenaten, in an attempt to restore the original law of one and reveal the truth of humanity's stolen legacy. The epic tales of Enoch, the destruction of Atlantis, and the subsequent invasions of Sumer and Egypt reveal a hidden narrative woven throughout human history. This is not a story about primitive people building monuments with simple tools. It is a story of advanced extraterrestrial races vying for control of this planet and its most valuable resources, its Stargate system, and its unique human genetics. The conflicts between the Anunnaki, the Melchizedeks, and other groups were battles for cosmic territory, with Earth as a strategic prize. Our planet, according to the Guardian Alliance, sits at a crucial nexus of interstellar pathways, making it immensely important in a galactic context. The constant mixing and clashing of these ancient races created the complex tapestry of bloodlines that defines humanity today. The establishment of the Hebrew tribe 10 in Ur, their connection to Stargate number 10, and the subsequent creation of the Scarab Kings in Egypt were all part of a genetic and political war. Each group sought to implant its own DNA signature and cultural ideology, influencing human development to serve their specific agendas. This is why secret societies have, for millennia, placed such a profound emphasis on genealogy and bloodlines. They are not merely tracing ancestry, they are tracking the remnants of this ancient off-world heritage. This secret history is directly linked to what is known as the stellar activation cycle, a massive 26,400-year period of cosmic evolution. We are, right now in 2025, said to be at the very end of one of these cycles. This is a time when the planetary stargates naturally begin to open, creating an opportunity for immense spiritual growth and dimensional ascension for humanity. It is a time when the veils between worlds thin, and the hidden truths of our past are destined to be revealed. The knowledge protected by groups like the Guardian Alliance was preserved precisely for this moment, to help humanity navigate this critical transition. Ultimately, understanding these ancient events provides a new lens through which to view our world. The political struggles, religious conflicts, and technological pursuits of our time may be echoes of this ancient war. The secrets of Enoch are not just about a flood, they are about cosmic lineage, Stargate physics, and the ongoing struggle between forces of enslavement and liberation. By uncovering this hidden history, we can better understand our true potential and the monumental choice that lies before us. To repeat the cycles of the past, or to reclaim our sovereign destiny as guardians of Earth and embrace a future among the stars. Have you ever wondered why we speak so many different languages? Mainstream historians will tell you it was a natural evolution over thousands of years. But is it possible that the answer is far more dramatic, far more extraordinary? Ancient texts from around the world, including the Bible, speak of a time when all of humanity was united, speaking a single language and working together. They describe a monumental event that shattered this unity forever. This event centers around a mysterious structure known as the Tower of Babel. Could it be that this story is not just a simple fable, but a record of a real historical event with extraterrestrial implications. The story tells us that humanity, in its unified state, decided to build a tower that would reach the heavens. But why? Were they simply trying to build tall as an expression of their engineering expertise? Or was there a more advanced purpose? I, for one, propose that this tower was not made of simple brick and mortar. Instead, it may have been a highly sophisticated piece of technology, a stargate, a sacred temple, a communication device, or perhaps a star pad, a landing zone designed to reconnect with the gods who had visited Earth in the distant past. Such a device would have given humanity incredible power, a power that some cosmic visitors did not want us to have. Think about it. A single, united human race with access to advanced technology. The potential would be limitless. We could have traveled the stars, unlocked the secrets of the universe, and taken our place among the galactic community. But this rapid advancement would have disrupted a delicate balance of power, not just on Earth, but across the cosmos. It's my belief that this tower represented a turning point for our species. It was a declaration that we were ready to ascend, to become masters of our own destiny. And that, as we will see, was something certain powerful beings could not allow. The biblical account is tantalizingly brief, almost as if the true details were deliberately obscured. It says God came down to see the city and the tower. Why would an all-knowing, omnipresent being need to come down? Is it possible that this is a description of a physical event, a visitation? Perhaps this wasn't about a deity fearing human arrogance, but about one faction of extraterrestrial beings intervening to stop a plan set in motion by another. The Tower of Babel might not be a story about punishing humanity, but about a conflict between cosmic forces fought right here on our planet. To understand what truly happened at Babel, we must look at the key players involved. Ancient texts are filled with stories of powerful beings who came from the sky. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki. These were not mythical gods. They were flesh and blood beings with superior technology, and they had their own agendas. Within this group, there were factions with very different ideas about how to manage humanity. On one side, you had figures like Marduk, a powerful leader who saw humanity as a resource to be controlled, a workforce to serve the Anunnaki Empire. He wanted to keep humanity united, but under his thumb. Opposing this were other groups, like the one led by the being known as Thoth. Some mystics have connected these groups to what are sometimes called the guardian races, or even illuminated groups, not in a modern demonic sense nor understanding, rather in the sense of being light-bringers who wanted to give humanity knowledge and free will. They believed that humanity deserved the chance to develop on its own, to be sovereign. This faction saw Marduk's plan for a unified, controlled human race as a form of slavery. They argued that true growth could only come from diversity, from struggle, and from the freedom to choose one's own path. The conflict came to a head at Babylon. Marduk and his followers were encouraging the construction of the tower, seeing it as the ultimate tool of centralized control. Imagine a single communications grid, a single power source, all managed by one leader. It would have been the perfect system for dominating an entire planet. The Guardians and their allies saw this as an unacceptable future for a promising young species. They knew that if Marduk succeeded, humanity's potential for spiritual and technological freedom would be extinguished forever. A decision had to be made, and a direct confrontation was brewing. This wasn't a simple argument, it was a cosmic ideological war. On the one side you have order, unity, and control. On the other, you have freedom, diversity, and perhaps chaos. The Hebrews, a people who cherished their freedom and their unique relationship with their own divine protector, found themselves caught in the middle of this epic struggle. Their traditions speak of resisting the powerful empires and their false gods. Could it be that their stories are a direct reflection of their ancestors' alignment with the Guardian factions who sought to liberate humanity from Anunnaki control? It is a distinct possibility. Why was Babylon so important? Why did this specific city become the focal point for such a monumental conflict? The answer, I believe, lies beneath the ground. For I do not merely propose, rather stating knowingly, certain locations on Earth are more significant than others. These are places where the planet's natural energy lines, or ley lines, intersect. These intersections create powerful energy vortexes. Babylon, it is argued, was situated on one of the most powerful vortexes on the entire planet. It was in essence a natural stargate location, a place where the veil between our world and other dimensions was exceptionally thin. Controlling Babylon, therefore, meant controlling the primary access point to and from the planet. Marduk knew this. By building his tower on this sacred and powerful ground, he wasn't just building a monument. He was seizing control of Earth's most important piece of cosmic real estate. The tower would act as an amplifier, harnessing the vortex's energy to power his technology and solidify his rule. It was a strategic move of galactic proportions. The group that controlled Babylon and its tower would effectively control the destiny of the human race and the planet itself. It was the ultimate prize in a high-stakes game. The Guardians and their allies understood the threat perfectly. Allowing Marduk to complete his project would be catastrophic. They had to intervene, but a full-scale war in the skies above Earth would have devastated the planet and the very people they sought to protect. A more subtle, more ingenious solution was required. They couldn't just destroy the tower, as that would release a catastrophic amount of energy from the vortex it was built upon. The plan had to be something else, something that would dismantle the power structure without destroying the world. The solution was as brilliant as it was profound. The key to Marduk's power was unity, a single language, a single culture, a single purpose, all directed by him. The Guardians realized that to break his control, they had to break the unity. They needed to decentralize humanity. The plan was to reprogram the human race itself. It was a daring and desperate move, a last-ditch effort to prevent total domination. The stage was set for an event that would alter human history, an event that would be remembered for millennia as a moment of divine punishment, when in fact, it may have been an act of cosmic liberation. The intervention was swift and decisive. Using advanced sonic and neurological technology, what ancient people could only describe as the voice of God, the Guardian Alliance targeted the human population gathered at Babylon. It wasn't a weapon that killed, it was a tool that rewired. They didn't just confuse the languages, they implanted new linguistic structures directly into the minds of the people. One moment, everyone understood each other. The next, they were speaking dozens of different fully formed languages. The shared consciousness that had bound them together was shattered in an instant. The project came to a grinding halt, but the intervention went even deeper. To ensure that humanity would not be easily unified and controlled again, the Guardians also wiped certain memories. The knowledge of humanity's true cosmic origins, the history of the Anunnaki, and the advanced science behind the tower were selectively erased from our collective consciousness. We were left with fragmented myths, allegorical stories, and a deep, instinctual sense of loss. We were scattered across the globe, forced to develop our own unique cultures, our own traditions, and our own ways of understanding the universe. Marduk's plan for a monolithic world empire was thwarted. This incredible story of extraterrestrial conflict is, I propose, the true event behind the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. The Bible says, "Let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." Who is the us? Mainstream religion says it refers to the Trinity, but could it be a literal reference to the Guardian Alliance descending to Earth to carry out their plan? The scattering of the people, the sudden appearance of new languages, it all matches the biblical narrative perfectly. The Bible isn't a fairy tale. It's a historical document whose true technological meaning we are only now beginning to decipher. In the end, humanity was given a second chance. The act of confusing our languages while seemingly a punishment was perhaps the greatest gift we could have received. It forced us down a path of diversity and resilience, making us much harder to control. While we lost our shared history, we gained our freedom. The Tower of Babel story serves as a permanent reminder, encoded in our most sacred texts, of a time when we almost surrendered our destiny to a single powerful ruler. It is a warning from our ancient past, telling us to question who the gods truly were, and to never, ever stop reaching for the stars on our own terms. The ancient city of Ur was a jewel of Mesopotamia. It was a center of power, knowledge, and advanced culture. For a long time, it was the heart of the Anunnaki dominion on Earth, a place where cosmic travelers and terrestrial beings coexisted under a fragile peace. However, this stability was shattered by ambition. The leader Marduk Andromi Necromaton, a powerful and determined figure, rose to prominence. His vision for the Anunnaki Empire was one of singular control, a vision that clashed dramatically with the existing order led by figures like Enlil and Enki. The power struggle that ensued was not just a political disagreement. It was a cataclysmic conflict that would reshape human history and scatter the Anunnaki leadership across the globe, sending ripples through time we are still trying to understand today. The takeover of Ur was swift and decisive. Marduk's forces swept through the Grand City, establishing a new regime. This event, which some scholars place around 2024 BCE, wasn't just a coup, it was the end of an era. The established Anunnaki factions could not remain. They were faced with a stark choice: submit to Marduk's absolute rule or flee to preserve their own ways and knowledge. This forced migration is what I like to call the Great Anunnaki Diaspora. Different groups, each with their own loyalties and specialized knowledge, packed up what they could and scattered to the winds. Enlil's camp, for example, is said to have moved east, while others ventured into the Americas. It was a mass exodus of beings who were considered gods by the local populations. Among those who fled was a key group led by the brilliant scientist and scribe Thoth, who many identify with the Anunnaki prince Enki. Thoth Enki was a keeper of sacred knowledge, a master of genetics, astronomy, and architecture. He represented a faction dedicated to uplifting humanity, to sharing wisdom rather than hoarding it for power. He saw Marduk's rise as a turn toward tyranny and darkness. Refusing to bend the knee, he gathered his most loyal followers, scientists, engineers, and scribes. They embarked on a journey westward, seeking a new land where they could rebuild and safeguard the ancient secrets from those who would misuse them. Their destination was a fertile land along a great river, a place the locals called Kemet, which we now know as Egypt. This journey was not a simple stroll across the desert. It was a carefully planned expedition. Thoth Enki and his followers brought with them not just their people, but also their technology and their vast library of knowledge, which some legends say was stored on crystalline tablets. They traveled across the Sinai Peninsula, following ancient trade routes and ley lines of terrestrial energy. Their goal was to find a place that was not only resource-rich, but also spiritually significant. Egypt, with its mighty Nile River, its geographic isolation, and its pre-existing spiritual traditions, was the perfect candidate. This was not an invasion but a migration of refugees, albeit very advanced ones, looking for a safe harbor to continue their great work in a world that was rapidly changing around them. When Thoth Enki and his Anunnaki group arrived in the Nile Valley, they did not find an empty land. Egypt was already home to a sophisticated and spiritually advanced people. These were the Seres Essene Egyptians, a culture with a deep connection to the earth and the cosmos. At the heart of their society were the Magi King lines, a priestly caste of rulers who were the guardians of ancient wisdom passed down through generations. These Magi were not just kings. They were stargazers, healers, and mystics. They understood the subtle energies of the land and believed their lineage was sacred, descended from star beings who had visited in a much earlier epoch. Their authority came from this sacred heritage and their profound spiritual insight. The arrival of Thoth Enki's group could have easily led to conflict. Here you have two powerful groups, both with claims to divine knowledge and a right to lead. But instead of war, something truly remarkable happened, a blending of cultures. The Magi King lines recognized the advanced knowledge of the newcomers. They saw in Thoth Enki not a conqueror, but a fellow traveler on the path of wisdom. Likewise, Thoth Enki respected the deep-rooted spiritual traditions of the Seres Essene. He understood that their connection to the land was something his technology could not replicate. It was a meeting of minds, a fusion of extraterrestrial science and terrestrial mysticism that would lay the foundation for a golden age. This collaboration was a careful process of integration. The Anunnaki brought incredible skills in engineering, genetics, and governance. They knew how to organize large-scale societies and build monumental structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The Magi, on the other hand, brought their profound understanding of the human spirit, the cycles of life and death, and the esoteric energies of the planet. They taught the newcomers about the importance of Ma'at, the concept of balance, order, and truth. Together, they began to create a new, unified culture. This was not a takeover, but a partnership. They shared their knowledge, their traditions, and most importantly, their bloodlines. This historic merger is the key to understanding the origins of ancient Egypt's greatness. It wasn't just one group or the other, it was the synergy between them. The stories and myths of this period speak of a time when gods walked among mortals, teaching them the arts of civilization. These gods were likely the Anunnaki leaders like Thoth Enki. The mortals were the native Egyptian people. The Magi King line served as the perfect bridge between the two. The result was a hybrid civilization, more advanced and spiritually attuned than anything that had come before it. This unique blend set the stage for the rise of the first ruling families of Egypt, long before the first officially recorded dynasty. The fusion of the Anunnaki and the Magi King lines was not just a cultural exchange, it was a biological one. Through carefully arranged unions, the two groups began to merge their lineages. This created a new ruling class with a unique genetic heritage. This was the birth of the Scarab Kings. They were the first true pharaohs of the pre-dynastic era, rulers who possessed the combined wisdom of the Magi and the advanced physiology of the Anunnaki. Their blood was considered sacred, a direct link to the stars. This divine right to rule wasn't just a story. For the ancient Egyptians, it was a biological fact, a truth carried in the very essence of their rulers' DNA. The symbolism of the scarab beetle, or Khepri, became central to this new dynasty for a powerful reason. The ancient Egyptians were keen observers of nature. They watched the scarab beetle roll a ball of dung across the ground, lay its eggs within it, and then bury it. Later, new beetles would emerge from the ball as if from nothing. They saw this as a potent symbol of spontaneous creation, resurrection, and celestial cycles. The beetle rolling its ball mirrored the sun being pushed across the sky by the gods. For the Scarab Kings, this symbol represented their own story, a new royal line emerging from the union of two powerful sources, reborn into something greater and destined to guide the journey of their people. The stories of the Anunnaki gods also began to merge with Egyptian beliefs. The Sumerian tales of family drama and cosmic battles were adapted to fit the new cultural landscape. Enki, the wise water god, became associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom, but also with Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. Osiris's story of being a benevolent king, murdered by his jealous brother Set, and resurrected by his devoted wife Isis to father a divine heir, Horus, was a powerful allegory. It mirrored the Anunnaki power struggles, particularly the conflict between the Enki or Osiris faction and the Enlil or Marduk faction, which became embodied in the figure of Set. These myths were teaching tools, encoding the history of their divine ancestors for future generations. This is why the Scarab Kings were seen as living gods on Earth. Their DNA was special. It was believed to contain the starfire or celestial essence of their Anunnaki ancestors, giving them enhanced longevity, intelligence, and psychic abilities. This was the blood of the gods that flowed through their veins. They were not just political leaders. They were intermediaries between the heavens and the earth. Their role was to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic balance, a task only someone with their unique genetic and spiritual makeup could perform. Their very presence was a testament to the sacred union that had birthed their civilization, a living bridge to a divine past. The deification of these early rulers was a natural outcome of their extraordinary origins. In a world where the line between the physical and metaphysical was blurred, the Scarab Kings were tangible proof of the divine. Their advanced Anunnaki DNA was not just a myth, it likely manifested in tangible ways. Accounts speak of rulers with elongated skulls, unusual height, and profound wisdom that seemed beyond that of ordinary men. These traits were seen as physical markers of their celestial heritage. The ability to plan and execute the construction of massive pyramids, to develop complex calendars, and to understand the intricate movements of the stars were all attributed to this special genetic inheritance. They weren't just worshipped, they were seen as the living engines of civilization. The pantheon of Egyptian gods we know today is, in many ways, a family history of these founding lineages. The great Anunnaki schism between Marduk and the Thoth-Enki group was retold in the epic struggle between Horus and Set. Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, represented the rightful heir of the sacred benevolent bloodline established by the merged Anunnaki-Magi groups. Set represented the usurping force, the chaotic ambition embodied by Marduk's takeover back in Mesopotamia. Every ritual, every temple inscription, was a reinforcement of this core story, the battle to uphold the divine order of the Scarab Kings against the forces of chaos. The Egyptian religion was, in essence, a political and historical record, veiled in allegory. This sacred bloodline was a thread that ran through the entire history of Egypt. The goal of every dynasty was to maintain its purity. This is why pharaohs often married their siblings or close relatives, not out of ignorance, but out of a desperate attempt to preserve the special genetic markers of their ancestors. This sacred lineage reached a fascinating climax much later with Pharaoh Akhenaten. His radical shift to monotheism, worshipping the sun disk Aten, and his own unusual physical depiction in art, with an elongated skull, slender limbs, and a prominent belly, harkens back directly to the descriptions of the original Anunnaki visitors. Akhenaten may have been trying to reboot the original religion of his ancestors, bypassing the pantheon to connect directly with the cosmic source. Today, as we dig through the sands of Egypt, we are not just uncovering stones and artifacts, we are piecing together a story of cosmic significance. The mysteries of ancient Egypt, its impossible architecture, its profound spiritual wisdom, and its god kings, all point to an extraordinary origin event. The tale of Thoth-Enki, the Magi king lines, and the birth of the Scarab Kings is more than a myth. It's a potential roadmap to understanding a lost chapter of human history, a time when our ancestors walked with gods because, in a way, they were them. The legacy is written in stone, in myth, and perhaps even in our own DNA waiting to be rediscovered. The expedition continues. Is it possible that the greatest stories of our ancient past are not myths, but historical records of a forgotten truth? Mainstream archaeologists tell us that our ancestors were primitive, but ancient texts from around the world describe incredible beings with advanced knowledge. These were the Grail Kings. They were not mere mortals. They were the guardians of a sacred lineage that held the very blueprint of humanity's divine potential. These kings, also known as the Enochian or Ceres Egyptian lines, were said to possess a unique genetic code, a key that could unlock higher states of consciousness and connect them directly to the cosmos. Their existence is hinted at in tales of god kings who ruled over magnificent civilizations like Atlantis, Lohas, and the early dynasties of Egypt. These Grail Kings were the original caretakers of Earth. Their bloodline was pure, descended from a celestial source that granted them abilities far beyond those of ordinary humans. They were master builders, astronomers, and spiritual leaders. Could it be that structures like the Great Pyramid were not tombs, but energy devices built to harness the power of their unique biology? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. The Grail Kings understood the universe in ways we are only just beginning to rediscover. Their power was not in armies or in gold, but encoded within their very cells, a biological technology that made them living gateways to other dimensions. This sacred inheritance made them a target for powerful off-world entities. The societies they governed were utopian. In places like the Rama Empire of ancient India or the Celtic Druidic orders, knowledge of this sacred science was preserved. The Grail Kings were not rulers in the way we think of them today. They were guides, teachers who helped humanity evolve. They knew that their DNA was a precious gift, a 12-strand diamond sun template that allowed for full biological ascension. This was the original human design, capable of incredible feats of healing, teleportation, and interdimensional travel. But what happened to these enlightened rulers? Why did their golden age come to an end? The answer, as we will see, lies in a cosmic conflict that began long before recorded history. This is not just a story, it is a secret history, hidden in plain sight. The Grail Kings represent what humanity was always meant to be. Their legacy is the story of our own lost potential, a potential that was stolen and manipulated by extraterrestrial visitors with their own agendas. The evidence is everywhere, from the sophisticated knowledge of the Celtic and Druidic peoples to the advanced spiritual systems of the Ceres Egyptians. To understand what happened to us, we must first understand who the Grail Kings were and why their genetic code was the most sought-after prize in the ancient universe. The saga of Enoch and the Scarab Kings is not just their story, it is our story. The ancient world was not as peaceful as we are led to believe. It was a cosmic battlefield, and the prize was the human genome. Several powerful extraterrestrial factions came to Earth, each with a specific interest in the Grail Kings' DNA. First, there were the Anunnaki, a group described in ancient Sumerian texts as those who from heaven to earth came. These beings were advanced, but they had a problem. Their own genetic code was deteriorating. They possessed a 10-strand DNA template, which limited their lifespan and cut them off from higher universal consciousness. They saw the Grail Kings' 12-strand DNA as a way to repair their own biology and achieve the immortality they so desperately desired. Another key group was the Marduk Necromaton. This was a fallen Anunnaki faction, even more aggressive and power-hungry. They practiced a distorted form of science, a kind of black magic alchemy that sought to control life through manipulation and domination. The Necromaton agenda was not just to take the Grail King DNA for themselves, but to enslave humanity by downgrading our genetic potential. They understood that if humanity ever realized its full 12-strand capabilities, their power over this planet would be finished. So they waged war, creating chaos and fear to keep humanity divided and weak, making it easier to infiltrate and control the sacred bloodlines from within. Then there were the Luciferians. It is important to understand that this name does not refer to a religious devil, but to another advanced extraterrestrial group. The Luciferians also had a damaged genetic code, but theirs was an 11-strand template. This gave them immense intellectual and technological power, but they lacked the capacity for true spiritual connection and compassion, the very essence of the 12-strand diamond sun code. They believed they could seize this power and merge it with their own, creating a super race that would dominate the cosmos. They saw the Grail Kings' heart-based consciousness as a weakness, something to be exploited and weaponized for their own purposes. These groups, the 10-strand Anunnaki, the aggressive Marduk Necromaton, and the 11-strand Luciferians, all shared a common goal: to capture and hybridize with the pure 12-strand DNA of the Grail Kings. The ancient raids on civilizations in Atlantis, Egypt, and Lohas were not just territorial disputes, they were genetic harvesting operations. They sought to interbreed with the royal lines, to steal their women and children, and to corrupt the sacred bloodline from the inside. This cosmic war for our DNA is the untold story behind the fall of every great ancient civilization. It was a systematic campaign to sever humanity from its divine birthright. As these extraterrestrial groups infiltrated human societies, a new chapter in our history began, the Age of Hybrids. The Anunnaki and Luciferians were successful in capturing Grail King DNA and began a massive genetic engineering program. They interbred with the human royal lines, creating new hybrid bloodlines that they could control. These new dynasties were placed into positions of power across the globe. They looked human, but they carried the genetic signature and, more importantly, the political agenda of their off-world creators. This was the true origin of the divine right of kings, a divine right granted not by God, but by technologically superior extraterrestrial manipulators. These hybrid lines were designed to be the ruling elite. The Anunnaki, for instance, created what are known as the Belal lines, hybrid rulers with a 10-strand code who were programmed for patriarchal domination and conquest. They were installed as kings and emperors in Mesopotamia, Rome, and later across Europe. The Luciferians, on the other hand, created the satanic lines, hybrids with an 11-strand code who excelled in deception, banking, and the manipulation of knowledge. These two competing hybrid lines have been secretly warring for control of the planet ever since, using humanity as pawns in their ancient cosmic game. One of the most famous examples of these hybrid programs is the Knights Templar. Is it a coincidence that this powerful order emerged from nowhere, with immense wealth and knowledge of sacred geometry and ancient secrets? Ancient astronaut theorists propose that the Templars were a Luciferian creation. They were a hybrid super race, engineered to seek out and control the remaining Grail King artifacts and bloodlines. Their quest for the Holy Grail was not for a cup, but for the pure 12-strand DNA of the original Christos lineage, the ultimate prize in their genetic war. They became a powerful force, establishing the foundations of modern international banking and intelligence networks. These engineered dynasties spread across the world, rewriting history to erase any trace of the original Grail Kings and humanity's 12-strand potential. They created religions and political systems based on control, fear, and servitude. The great battles of history were often proxy wars between these competing Anunnaki and Luciferian hybrid factions. They built empires, instigated wars, and hoarded resources, all while keeping humanity in a state of genetic and spiritual amnesia. The secret societies and royal families that rule our world today, are they in fact the direct descendants of these ancient hybrid programs? The evidence, I believe, is overwhelming. After millennia of genetic manipulation and historical suppression, you might ask, what is left for humanity? The answer is everything. The most incredible secret of all is that the plan to completely destroy the human 12-strand diamond sun DNA template failed. While the ruling hybrid lines carry corrupted 10-strand and 11-strand codes, the original divine blueprint remains dormant within the DNA of the general human population. We are all, in a sense, descendants of the Grail Kings. The potential for full biological ascension, for activating our total genetic heritage, lies sleeping within every man, woman, and child on this planet. This is why humanity is so special. We are a Grail line race. Our DNA contains the memories of our ancestors, the knowledge of the cosmos, and the key to restoring our planet. The extraterrestrial groups who interfered in our evolution know this. That is why they have worked so hard to keep us distracted with wars, materialism, and a false history. They are terrified of the day humanity awakens and reclaims its power. An awakened human with an activated 12-strand DNA template is more powerful than any of these fallen extraterrestrial races. We have the missing piece they have been fighting over for eons. The capacity for unconditional love, which is the energetic key to activating the final DNA strands. So what does this mean for our future? It means we are on the verge of a great awakening. Today, on August 9th, 2025, more and more people are beginning to question the official narrative. They are feeling a pull towards a forgotten truth, a deep memory stirring in their soul. This is the awakening of our collective DNA. The knowledge of the Grail Kings, the Anunnaki, and the Luciferians is not just a fascinating story. It is a roadmap for our own liberation. By understanding who we are and where we come from, we can begin the process of healing our DNA and reclaiming our sovereignty. It starts with rejecting the fear and division that have been used to control us. Knowing this secret history is the first step. It empowers us to see the world not as random chaos, but as a carefully constructed matrix of control. More importantly, it shows us the way out. The future is not about waiting for saviors from the sky. It is about becoming our own saviors by activating the divine technology we carry within us. The epic saga of Enoch and the Scarab Kings is not over. Its final chapter is being written right now, by us. We are the Grail, and the time for our awakening is here. The universe is waiting.